Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
Aguten Erev Shabbos Parshas Shemini. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is sponsored in the schus of Chaim Tzvi ben Esther Riva finding his zivug bekarov. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, Meridian Senior Health, the Hassan Zaltz Law Firm, and the Bluestone Brokerage. For future dedications to sponsor the weekly shir and publication, please reach out to 845-367-2959. I am very excited to share with you great news. I mentioned last week that the new Lechtich Aharon HaKohen will be reaching the stores, and Baruch Hashem now, I'm here to relate the news. Excited to give over the message that Baruch Hashem, I've heard from many people in many vicinities that indeed the Haggadah, Baruch Hashem, has hit the shelves of many, many Svarim stores in your vicinity, in your city, in your locale, whatever you want to call it, but it should be there. And if not, you shall be rest assured, because I will attach a link to Judaica Plaza's website, and you can easily, with just a couple clicks away, order the Haggadah for yourself, for your family, for your friends. I am confident this is a purchase you will not regret. Rather, on the contrary, it's one that you will embrace, be excited about, and it will definitely enhance your Seder, all the participants at your Seder, and everyone around you, because you're going to have great Torah, Schera, stories, insight, and Chizik to share about the Yontif we are excitedly approaching. Now turning to the Parshas Shemini. In this week's Parsha, we encounter perhaps one of the most famous pairs of words, vaydom Aharon, and Aaron was silent. After the death, the taking of his two children, Nadav and Avihu, who offered foreign sacrifices to Kadosh Baruch Hu, they were killed. And Moshe Rabbeinu tried offering divrei tanchumin, comforting words of solace, and the Torah testifies Aaron's response was no response. Vaydom Aharon. Aaron was silent. The Chafetz Chaim points out that obviously there's a deeper intention, there's deeper significance to these words, because if the Torah was purely trying to relate to us that Aharon HaKohen was just quiet, the Torah could have said lo diber or vayecharash, that he didn't speak, or he was silent, he didn't speak back. Nevertheless, the Torah chooses this very uncommon term of vaydom. What's the pshat? What is the Torah trying to tell us with this? And the Chafetz Chaim explains, vaydom is the same lashon as the word doimim, a rock. We know there's a famous kuzri that tells us that there's 5 levels. There's a doimim tzmeach until you get to the top of medaber, someone who speaks. The bottom of the totem pole, the thing, the entity that has the least koyach to express, to emote, to talk, is a doimim, is a rock. A rock is emotionless. It doesn't speak as it sounds. It's a rock. And therefore, says the Chafetz Chaim, the Torah is telling us over here the level, the incredible, indescribable madrega of bitachon that Aharon HaKohen possessed, which was the lashon of vaydom, like a rock. And not only did he not outwardly express emotion or anger, resent, chas v'shalom, frustration or anguish, but even inside, like a rock, he was so trained and worked on inside. He was so connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. He was so accepting and subservient to the Ratzon Hashem, to the Gzeros HaMakom, to Hashem's decree. He was really someone who fulfilled what we say every day in Baruch Sha'amar, Baruch Goizer Umekayim. He's someone that was able to say, blessed is he, the one who decrees and fulfills. And when he lost his own 2 children, vaydom Aharon, like a rock, not just on the outside, but even on the inside, he was perfectly accepting of the will and decree of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what the Torah is telling us, vaydom, which is the lashon of doimim, akin to a rock that has absolutely no emotion. Not because he was emotionless, not because he was a cold person, not because he didn't have feelings, but because when it came to the Gzera Shamayim, heavenly decree, Aaron was completely subscribed to whatever Kadosh Baruch Hu had in mind. He understood and accepted whatever Kadosh Baruch Hu decreed. How to process, how to understand how a person comes to such a level is beyond anyone's capacity, because we can't know what svarim, what drashas, what speeches Aharon HaKohen listened to or learned. It's simply impossible. But perhaps with what we do have, we can glean potential insight into how a person like Aharon HaKohen was made and how he attained the spiritual madrigas that he did. The Vilna was once asked about the approach to attain the greatest level of bitachon. What is bitachon and what's the way to achieve it, and how does one get there in the purest, most wholesome way possible. And the Goyin said, we have to return to what David HaMelech writes in Tehillim, Im loi shivisi v'doimamti navshi kagamol alai imoy kagamol alai navshi. But I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me. And says the Vilna Goyin that David HaMelech over here is conveying to us that like a young nursing baby receiving sustenance from his mother, when he's cradled in the arms of his mother, the baby does not fret about the future. Rather, it feeds without any concern. And similarly, when one realizes that they are in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty, the Omnipresent, the Omnipotent, the Kol Yachol, they can be rest assured and untroubled about the future, just like the baby who trusts that his mother will provide. Aharon HaKohen obviously exercised and internalized this message of what it means, Kagamol alai imoy, like a young infant suckling on his mother. Aharon HaKohen didn't just read that, didn't just preempt what David HaMelech was going to say years later, but he mamish lived it. It was palpable. It was so real. And by this virtue, he was able to come to the madrega of vaydom Aaron. There's an absolutely remarkable, astounding story told of the great Sanzer Rav, Reb Chaim Halberstam. The Sanzer Rav lost his 8-year-old son, and the morning of his levaya, the Rav insisted that the levaya be held before Shachris. And after the levaya and the kvura, his talmidim were walking with him on the way to Shachris, and the Rav felt that there was a very obvious question that everyone was thinking in their mind, which was, why was the Rav so adamant that Shachris should dafka be held after the burial of his child? And the Rav got up and he said, Rabbi say, my talmidim, he said, imagine on my way to Shachris someone were to slap me on the back. What would my instinctive reaction be? He said, I would instinctively turn around, seeing the person who struck me, and then it would depend. If it was a friend who slapped me, then that would serve as a kind of good morning, despite the pain it caused. However, if it came from an enemy, then obviously he intended to harm me. Said the Rav, what happened to me this morning? Yes, I got slapped, and it was undeniably forceful and painful. But nevertheless, not even for one moment do I doubt that my closest and most compassionate ally, my best friend, the person who cares more about me than I care for myself, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu who delivered the blow. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is undoubtedly my best friend, and therefore I wholeheartedly express gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and accept this pain with joy. And therefore he said, I know you're all wondering why I insisted that Shachris be held after the levaya, but now I believe it is clear to you that we're going to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu even amidst the pain, anguish, and darkness, because at the end of the day, I know it was for my best friend. And they went into the Beis Medrash, and they said, Hoidul Hashem, Kiru Vishmoy. I thank you and praise you, Hashem, my God. Again, we don't know how this tzaddik reached such a level. We don't know how he's Mekabel Yisurim with such a hava. We don't know how it's possible that he dafka wanted to orchestrate that Shachris, that Hoidul Hashem, Kiru Vishmoy, that the Psukei de Zimra, the verses of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be held right after he buried his own son. We can't fathom this. But one thing is for sure. The underlying midah, the characteristic of Aharon Avinu and the Sanzer Rav and all the great tzaddikim of yesteryear, our Babas and Zaydas and Avos and Tanoim and Amoraim, how they withstood with unwavering bitachon, there's only one answer. And that answer is, like David HaMelech says, Kagamol alai imoy, kagamol alai navshi. Like the young suckling infant is how my soul craves and yearns you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the underlying midah of tzidkus, of tzaddikim with extraordinary, undescribable bitachon, seemingly unconquerable, unattainable. But at the same time, it's possible for humankind to reach this level because they did it, because it happened. And while we may feel distant and removed from this madrega, we have to take what we can, which is the full reliance and submission to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and especially during the trying times that Rahman al-Islam we are still going through, organization after organization for the new Yisayimim and Almanas in Eretz Yisrael, how all these young women who lost their husbands and young orphans have to make Pesach, and how they need clothing and food, and how they have no fatherly figure, and how there's so many hostages still kept in the hand of the devil. It's still going on. The horrific pain is still ripping us apart. The days go on, but there are people still being crushed. There are still people screaming and crying, soaking their pillow to bed every single night if they make it to sleep at all. We all go through personal challenges, and we certainly know people that are going Rahman al-Islam to Gehenim with pain, anguish, uncertainty, loss. Hashem Yirachim. I'm not one to offer solutions, and I'm not belittling the pain of anyone. But the only eitzah, the only way to possibly get through this, the Torah is telling us over here the most invaluable piece of advice. Vaydom, Aharon reminds us there is such a madrega of coming to full submission. And while it may seem far, we have to utilize and try what we can to connect to that level. And the way to get there is with the realization of kagamol alai imoy, like the young suckling infant of his mother, kagamol alai nafshi. That is how my soul is for you, Hashem. That during the terribly hard, painful times, as we're all going through, and we know others are going through, and the burden seems so great, impossible to bear, when we invest ourselves, when we invest our all into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and channel the great burden, the great pain to Him and to Hashem, I don't know, I don't have answers. But one thing I do know is that it's all you, and I'm going to keep staying in your embrace. I'm going to be comforted by you. May Hashem in turn His mercy, His kindness and compassion to our reliance on Him, and deliver us the ultimate redemption of the building of Bayis Shlishi with Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meher v'yameinu amen. I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish each and every one of you a wonderful Shabbos.
I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.